Lest we forget, Zimbabwe is turning 40 on the 18th of April 2020. We need to introspect and find ourselves as a people. We attained independence in 1980 from colonialism. But 40 years later, we are suffering from neo-colonialism. We are suffering from greed. We're suffering from corruption, from high levels of poverty. And I actually urge the younger generation in Zimbabwe not to ignore what independence means to Zimbabweans, but to take this opportunity during the lockdown to find out what kind of Zimbabwe that they want. We have a youth agenda at Labour Economists and African Democrats where we are saying our struggle as the younger generation right now is to ensure that we fight against economic repression. We want to fight for economic emancipation. We want to fight against poverty. This is not the time for us to be fighting against personalities. Yes, Zimbabwe has gone through a lot of challenges in the past 40 years. But as we turn 40 on the 18th of April 2020, we need to redefine who we are as a people, what we want to do collectively as a people, and how to ensure that we become financially independent. This can only be made possible if the young people of this nation rise up united in their diversity and say it is time for the fourth Chimurenga, the economic revolution. There is no one who is more Zimbabwean than the other. We are all Zimbabweans, and we all have a responsibility to play to ensure that Zimbabwe is a home for us, is a home where everyone feels comfortable with, and to make sure that every Zimbabwean who's in the diaspora will come back to Zimbabwe and we fix Zimbabwe together, brick by brick. No one is going to do this for us. No one is going to come and save Zimbabwe. I don't feel like the government has done enough in regard to curbing and combating the spread of COVID-19. Just issuing a directive for people to stay at home is not sufficient, as we keep on realizing that most of the cases we're getting of COVID-19 patients are of people who actually came into Zimbabwe from other countries. And secondly, we notice that we are still having a problem where people are not even practicing social distancing, where they are going to trade, where they are going to buy their basic commodities. A perfect example is the reopening of Mbare Musika yesterday, where people were just crowded and were busy going ahead with their business as usual. There hasn't been sufficient awareness on COVID-19. And a lot of people do not know what it entails because everything was just done haphazardly. Like I highlighted the other day in my article, that it was more of a copy and paste lockdown that our government copied from South Africa and other countries. We were not prepared enough for it. People did not have sufficient time even to stock and to close their businesses in a proper manner. We also have a tragedy where workers are now being forced to sign leave forms, and some are forced to go on unpaid leave. These were other issues that the government did not put into perspective when they were issuing their directive of a lockdown, because scrupulous employers have actually taken advantage of this lockdown to abuse workers, and some to retrench and to even terminate workers' contracts of employment. The responsibility lies with you and me. You are the change that you've been waiting for. No one is going to come and fix Zimbabwe for us. We are going to fix Zimbabwe on our own. And chichambe chacho chiri kwauri neni kuti tasvika here panguva yekuti takuda kugadzirisa nyika yedu kana kuti toda kuramba tichirwa hondo dzevatungamiriri vemamwe mapato. I'm just advising you today that sit down. Think about the legacy that you want to leave for your children. I don't want to leave a legacy of poverty. I don't want to leave a legacy of helplessness and hopelessness and joblessness. I want to leave a legacy that will prosper every Zimbabwean, regardless of their social class. As Labour Economists and African Democrats, our provincial chairs have been busy compiling names and beneficiaries of all those who have been affected by the lockdown, and we are at a stage where we are now trying to make sure that we procure enough foodstuffs to sustain these vulnerable families during the lockdown. It's unfortunate that our government did not put that much effort, especially to the vulnerable families in urban areas, to ensure that there will be food secure during this lockdown. You'll find that in rural areas, there are a lot of substitute in regards to food. But in urban areas where people have been locked down, in high density areas where they are suffering from security clampdowns, it is very difficult for them to be able to access foods. We've seen long winding queues in Marondera and other areas where people are queuing to find just millimel. And in these queues as well, we're not seeing social distancing being implemented in those queues, and that is a high risk for infection for the people who will be queuing for basic commodities such as millimel. And as a political party, we've said we are going to assist every female-headed family, child-headed family, and a family that has got a breadwinner who is living with disability, or one who is not able to provide for their families during this lockdown. And we are at an advanced stage of doing that. And we've been doing a lot of awareness campaigns in regards to precautionary measures that people should take, and sending out the signs and symptoms of COVID-19 to the people in Zimbabwe. Right now, we are also waiting for a consignment which we secured from South Africa of protective clothing and masks, which we want to donate to local clinics in urban areas and in rural areas, so that they will also be able to be safe and to be able to treat all patients as they come in. We have had cases, though some are unconfirmed, where people have been turned away from local clinics because they didn't have sufficient protective clothing. We all have a responsibility to play to ensure that we stop the spread of coronavirus. And we also have a clarion call to the government of Zimbabwe to open up advocacy work and awareness campaigns to all political parties, and to even meet as civic society, political parties, and all other private sectors that want to plug in to ensure that we combat the spread of coronavirus in Zimbabwe. I think a lot of people would have noticed that I have not commented on the Supreme Court judgment of the MDC case, because I feel that it is none of Labour Economists and African Democrats' business. I am no longer a member of the MDC. I have no reason whatsoever to want to include myself in MDC business. And at such a time like this, I don't feel that it is necessary for us to keep on talking about power struggles within the MDC when we are faced with the challenge of COVID-19, where everyone has to be putting their hands on the deck on finding ways to stop the spread of coronavirus. It is so unfortunate that whilst we are looking for ways to solve the crisis at hand, some other people are fixated in power struggles. Politics is not all about power. Politics is about serving the people. Right now, we are separating the chaff from the grain, because we can really see which politicians in Zimbabwe care about the people, which politicians in Zimbabwe care about the aftermath after the COVID-19. We are faced with a lot of economic challenges after we come out of the lockdown. Why am I saying this? Economic activity is at maybe about 5%. And a lot of people are going to lose their jobs after the COVID-19. As Labour Economists and African Democrats, we've set up a think tank to look at the strategies of which we have to implement as a nation to ensure that we resuscitate our economy and people will have sustainable human development. We are not going to waste our time fixating on what should have been done or what should have been done. What we need right now is unity of purpose, to take away our political jackets and say, how do we protect Zimbabwe at the aftermath, to be able to grow from it, able to take Zimbabwe forward. Basically, what I'm saying is, as Labour Economists and African Democrats, we're more concerned about our health as a nation. We are more concerned about our economy in the aftermath. How are we going to plug back into the global economics? What are our farmers doing? What is our mining sector doing? We are more concerned about how we are going to take Zimbabwe forward. We are not concerned about power struggles. We are not even concerned about the business of how they are going to be running their struggles in their political parties, because both factions of the MDC, whether the one led by Khupe or by Nelson Chamisa, have taken the nation at ransom for a very long time. They have divided the nation, divided people, divided everything that is supposed to unite us. And as a people, we have to introspect and say, is this the time that people are supposed to be fighting for power? Because when you look at it, the fight within the MDC is not a fight about differing ideologies. It's not a fight of serving the people of Zimbabwe. It's a fight of personalities. It's a fight for power, a fight for money and assets. And honestly, any sane Zimbabwean cannot be fixated with fights for money and assets when we've got bigger challenges to face as a nation, to find solutions, homegrown solutions that will take Zimbabwe forward. So as Labour Economists and African Democrats, we have no business whatsoever with whatever is happening at the MDC, but we'll just give advice to them that this is not the time to fight for power, to fight for assets, and to fight for money. This is the time for us to unite in our diversity and say, how do we take Zimbabwe forward? Doing a lot of research as well in the mining sector, as some of the mines have actually been given the directive to reopen. But a lot of miners, for example, in Mimosa and Shishavane, are crying foul that reopening of their mine will actually expose them to COVID-19 as the mine is not properly prepared. We would have a situation where our Minister of Mines would ensure that all mines that have been ordered to open comply with the precautionary measures in line with COVID-19 precautions, because we have had reports from other mines saying that there isn't sufficient protective clothing, and some are still being forced to use breathalyzers. And we all know that the moment they are using the same breathalyzer, it will also aggravate the spread of the virus. And we really need seriousness from our local government and central government to ensure that they decongest all these markets that have been opened, and that proper social distancing measures will be done on our open markets to ensure that we do not spread coronavirus at the relevant open markets. When it comes to our health institutions, I still feel that a lot needs to be done. And I feel as well that our government is not being truthful enough about the state of affairs in our health institutions. We really need to be told the truth about what is happening in real time. And at the end of the day, it is everyone's responsibility to ensure that we teach each other and ensure that messages in regards to coronavirus awareness reaches every corner of our country. It is only folly to think that we can send messages on social media and think that every other Zimbabwean has access to that information. We need more jingles on the radio on coronavirus awareness. We need action teams on the ground from government to educate people in the high density areas, in our rural areas, so that people understand the gravity and the magnitude of this coronavirus pandemic. At the end of the day, we all need to be working together to ensure that we stop the spread of coronavirus in Zimbabwe.